So this lesson we're going to be doing equations and formulas. It's really important that you understand this work and can apply it well, because later on you're going to have to do this if you do go into any of the sciences. Physics in particular has a lot of formulas and you need to be able to solve equations using those formulas. And there's a lot of different university courses that require you to be good at this work. Okay, so if we have a look at what we're doing here, in the first question we've been given a formula, y equals 5x plus c. They want you to do three different things here, so we're going to look at them one at a time. The first one says we're finding y, the value of y, if x equals 4 and c equals minus 2. So this is pretty easy, you've done this in earlier years, so we're just subbing in. So we're going to put 4 in for x, so this will be 5 times 4, you all know there's a times between the 5 and the x. And then we're plussing the c value. So just be careful here. C is minus 2. So write the minus 2 in like that. We're finding y. And you can go straight to your calculator and put that in. You are good enough to be able to just write that in as a minus sign, but that's up to you. If you want to just type it in as 5 times 4 plus minus 2, the calculator will do that as well. And if you do that, you'll get an answer of 18. Alright, so the next question, still using this original formula that they've given to you here. We're finding c if y equals 40 and x equals 3. So copy your formula down. We're putting 40 in for y and we're putting 3 in for x, like they've given us. And now we're just solving the equation. So work this out as 15 first. And then we're getting c by itself like we normally do. So we need to get rid of this plus 15 here. And we come over to the other side and do the opposite, which is minus 15. And if you work that out, you'll get c equals 25. Alright, the next question. Using the same formula, let's write it down first. I've already put the numbers in for y and for c. So now we're just solving our equation. Get rid of the plus 12, come over here and minus it, do the opposite. Working that out, we get a 15 there. And now we're getting rid of our 5. And we divide by it, doing the opposite of times. And we get our answer of x equals 3. Alright, now what happens after that is we start to get into word problems. And this is where we have applications to physics and lots of other formulas. So in this question, this is actually a correct formula. Any formulas that are given to you are normally correct formulas if they're describing what it's used for. So this one says a temperature in degrees Celsius can be converted to degrees Fahrenheit using this formula. Okay, so the F stands for degrees Fahrenheit and the C stands for degrees Celsius. So in this first question, we're converting minus 10 degrees Celsius to degrees Fahrenheit. So if we copy down the formula first. Okay, now the minus 10 degrees Celsius is the C value, so that's going in for C. So we're going to have minus 10 going in for C there. Okay, and then you can go straight to your calculator with that line, put the whole thing in, just like you see. Right, so you've got fraction key, 9 times minus 10 on the top, down arrow 5 on the bottom, right arrow out of the fraction, plus 32, and then equals. And I'm going to try and do this in my head and hopefully I'll get it right. Should be 14. You can all let me know if I'm wrong. On the end, we're writing degrees Fahrenheit. Because it's a word problem with a proper application, you have to write the units on the end. So 14 degrees Fahrenheit is our answer. All right, so in Australia, we use degrees Celsius. We used to, quite a while ago, use degrees Fahrenheit, and then we converted when we converted to the metric system. So in America, they still use degrees Fahrenheit. So if you're in America and they tell you the temperature for the day, you want to really understand, is that warm or is it cold? And what should I be wearing? So you do need to understand what their temperatures kind of convert to. So minus 10 degrees Celsius would be a really, really freezing day in the snow for us. Very, very cold. for them, it's 14 degrees Fahrenheit. So some parts of America would get those sorts of temperatures in really cold winters. Sometimes it drops lower than that. Okay, so we're doing the next one, starting with the same formula. So we'll copy it down first. Okay, now this time they've given you 100 degrees Fahrenheit, so they've given you an F value. So we're putting the 100 in for F. And now we're just going to go ahead and solve our equation. So get rid of that plus 32, move it over here, it's minus 32 over there, and then work that out. We get 68, and then we're getting rid of our 5, which we're dividing here. So when we come over to the other side, we're going to times. And I'll just move up here because I haven't got enough room there. Work that out on your calculator and you'll get 340. And then we're getting rid of our 9. So get rid of your times 9. Do the opposite, which is divide by 9. We're going to write it like that, like we always do with divisions. We write them as fractions. Now I'm not working this out in my head, I'll do this on the calculator. So fraction key 340 over 9 equals, all right, and it gives us that. Not much help, is it? All right, so we use the SD key to just change it. I've got it as a decimal there. That's okay. Ignore that 8 on the end and write it as 37.7 recurring. Or if we do shift SD, that would probably be better. Let's write it like that, 37 and 7/9. Okay, now this is degrees Celsius we're finding here. So make sure you've got that on the end. Okay, next question. Now here they're telling you about a formula that you already know. You already know the area of a trapezium formula, but I never taught it to you like that. So sometimes this is going to happen, that you'll go, that's not the way I was taught it differently. If they tell you in a question, use the formula, which they've done down here, use the one they've given you, not the one you've been taught or the one you think you know. Just write exactly what they tell you, okay? And in the HSC, they will give you a formula sheet, and sometimes you look at it and go, well, that's not the way my teacher taught me. It doesn't matter. You can use the way your teacher taught you, or you can use the formula on the formula sheet, but if you're going to do that, make sure you know how to use it. Main thing with formulas, how do you use it? All right, so I've just copied that straight down, even though that's not what I've taught you. All right, so we're going to go from here. Now, down here, we've got to understand what everything is, and I think because we've already done the area of a trapezium, you do know what all these letters are, but they've explained them all to you here, what they all are. And then down here, we've got our numbers, so let's read what they are. This one's 420. You can see with centimetres squared that it must be the area, but they've told you it is anyway over here. So we're putting 420 in for our area in that spot. They've also given you the parallel sides, 20 and 22. The parallel sides, you know, are A and B. So we're putting 20 and 22 in there. So we're going to have it looking like this. Now make sure you write those time signs in. All right, you have to understand in the next line what you're doing. All right, now, if you don't put them in, as long as you understand, you are multiplying. Okay, so we're going to work out what we can work out. So you can work that out on your calculator. So do a half times open bracket 20 plus 22 close bracket, and we're going to end up with 21. When you do that, the times h, we're just going to continue down and just keep solving your equation. Let's get rid of that times 21 now by dividing by 21. And if we work that out, it's going to end up being 20. Now, we've got to go back and see what that was. H is what? It's the height. So it's a length, isn't it? So we have to write it with the centimetres after it. Make sure you give your units on any of these questions that are word problems. Okay, the next question is not really a word problem. So we're just going to do the question. They've given you a formula here. Let's write it down. Okay, and we're going to sub in our numbers. M is 12.6, so that goes in here. K is 3.15, so that goes in there. And then we have a times A and over 5. Okay, now, it's up to you which way you want to do this. Eventually you've got to get that A by itself on the right-hand side. So you can solve it however you want to get there. But generally, I guess most people would probably get rid of this first. There are alternatives sometimes though, as long as you're doing it mathematically correctly, that's fine. Okay, so now, I'll just leave that over there. We're doing 12.6 times 5, which should end up being 6 times 10 is 126, and we're halving it. What's that? 63. But you can do it on the calculator. And then we're going to work out the last part, getting the A by itself. Get rid of the times 3.15. And I'm going to the calculator with that one to see what we end up with. So just put it in the fraction key. And we have 63 over 3.15 equals, that works out nicely to be 20. Now, that doesn't have any application to anything, it's just a straight out formula, so you can just leave it at A equals 20. Alright, now we're going to do one more word problem over here. So I'll just drag it across and we'll have a look at this one. Now, this is where we start getting applications to other things. So this one is talking about the temperature of a hot liquid. So it says the temperature T in degrees Celsius of a hot liquid as it cools is given by the formula T equals 100 minus 17.5 H, where H is the number of hours. That's going to be important in a minute. Okay, so H is in hours that it has been cooling. So lots of these things have applications, especially when you're looking at things that are cooling. I had a chemistry teacher once that said, if you made a cup of tea and you just poured the cup of tea and you normally have it with milk, and then your phone rings and you're about to go and take the call and you know your cup of tea is going to be sitting there getting cold, should you put the milk in and then go and take the call, or should you leave it and put the milk in later? And the answer is actually put the milk in first and then go and take the call, because there's more molecules running around and keeping each other warm, and it keeps the liquid warmer for longer. So lots of things like this do apply to science, right? That's a chemistry question which I just told you then. All right, but there's also things like we might be looking at forensic science. They might find a body, they're trying to work out the time of death. There are formulas that are applied to that to work out the temperature of the body and what the time of death was. Okay, when we look at things like carbon dating, we have a lot of formulas to do with that. So it's really important in a lot of areas of science that you do know how to do this work and do it well. All right, so in this word problem here, we're starting with our formula every time. So we'll write it down. Okay, now we're finding the temperature. They've given you 2 hours. So what is this number they've given you? It's the H value, okay? So, and it is written in the right units, so we're okay to go and just put that straight in. So I'm going to put our 2 in over there. Let's write the rest of it. And that's what we have. And this is a pretty easy one because we're just doing all of these numbers straight on the calculator now to work it out. And that will end up being 65. And what's T measured in? Degrees Celsius. So make sure you write that on the end. Okay, the second part of the question. Start with the formula first. All right, now what makes this a bit trickier is they've given you the time as 30 minutes. You can't just go and put 30 in for H, all right, because the H is the time in hours. So we have to convert this to hours first and then do the question. So minutes to hours, going to a bigger unit, we divide by 60 because there's 60 minutes in an hour. So 30 over 60 in your fraction key is 1/2. So it's half an hour, but some of you, well, you should all know that anyway, 30 minutes is half an hour. So we're going to just go and put it in. So over here, we're putting times half because that's now in the right units over there and we can apply it. All right, so now we go to the calculator and work it out. And what are we going to get there? I'll just push this one in. All right, so stick it straight in the calculator. 100 minus 17.5 times 1/2. 91.25 is fine as an answer. And we're in degrees Celsius for this. Or if you want, you can give it as 91.25 degrees Celsius. Okay, let's look at the next one. Now again, we're starting with the formula. Now what's this number they've given you this time? They've given you 30, but it's degrees Celsius, and the 30 degrees Celsius is your T value. All right, so this is your T value. So it's going in for T. The units are okay, degrees Celsius is fine. So you can go and put that straight in, that 30 in for T. And then we're going to be solving this equation. Now, you know, you can take your time and do this however you want, but I'm going to sort of jump ahead here and think about how this is going to be working out. I don't really like this idea of having a negative with my letter, so I'm going to move that whole thing over to the other side and change its sign. All right, so I'm going to move it all the way over here now and make it a positive 17.5H. All right, that's become a positive now. So the 100 is staying there, and we're going to have the 30 come across and join it. So this plus 30 is now moving over here to join the other number, and we've got minus 30 there. So now we have 17.5H equals 70, and you know what to do now. We're going to get rid of the times 17.5, over to the other side and divide by it. And then we're putting that in our calculator to see what answer we end up with. I just always put it in the fraction key because if you have a weird answer, it gives you a nicer answer. Okay, well it just gives you a 4, so that's fine. So we have 4, and what's H stand for? The number of hours. So it's 4 hours. All right, so just make sure that you always write your formula down. Make sure that you've got the units right before you go subbing your numbers in. When the units are right, you can put your numbers in, and then you're just solving an equation. So just practice these questions. If there's any problems, let me know.